here in the province of Bohol.
From around the world.
Things seem very normal in the city. People are still going to work or to school. The shops and restaurants are busy.
This is Al Jazeera.
Hello, I'm Barbara Sarah. This is the Al Jazeera News Hour live from London. Thank you for joining us. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, Russian attacks intensify north of the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, as President Putin says his military operation is going to plan. We speak to the shell-shocked civilians escaping fierce fighting in Ukraine's second city, Kharkiv, one of Russia's first targets. Delegates from Ukraine and Russia meet again in Belarus and agree on setting up humanitarian corridors for civilians to escape. And U.S. President Joe Biden announces a raft of new sanctions targeting Russia's billionaire oligarchs.
And in sport, athletes from Russia and Belarus have now been banned from the Winter Paralympics. Events organisers saying protests by athletes from other countries have convinced them to make the decision.
Russian and Ukrainian officials say that they've agreed to create humanitarian corridors to evacuate civilians. As the war in Ukraine enters its second week, negotiations were held in Belarus. Several Ukrainian cities continue to come under heavy bombardment. Russian President Vladimir Putin says his military operation is going to plan, with reports of the northern city of Mariupol. Officials there say the city's water and power supplies have been cut off and food is running out. But the Ukrainian president says his defense lines are holding around the capital, Kyiv, and U.S. intelligence shows Russian forces are largely stalled across the north. Jonah Hall begins our coverage from Lviv in western Ukraine.
Major Ukrainian cities are surrounded and under constant attack. This is Chernihiv, a city of textile factories, churches and monasteries. It is misfortune to lie on the route of Russia's advance from the north. In the eastern city of Kharkiv too, people wake daily to scenes of terrible destruction and a fast rising civilian death toll.
Look what Putin is doing. This is a war crime committed against the civilians, against the city of Kharkiv.
This city of 1.5 million people, most ethnic Russians, is being torn apart by Russian forces for no reason other than that it exists just across the border from Russia in Ukraine. And in the far south, Ukraine's biggest port, Odessa, is under threat too. Here, frantic efforts have been underway for days to build defenses against a possible beach. Landing. Multiple vessels belonging to Russia's Black Sea Fleet hover on the horizon, including landing ships and support craft. Ukraine's military is very much still in this fight, reinforced by supplies of weapons from abroad. They've been able to apply real pressure to the Russian advance, slowing the progress of a vast column of armor, artillery and soldiers heading for the capital, Kyiv. Sleepy commuter towns lie in ruins, a foretaste of what may be in store for Kyiv. The apparent aim to insert the city and besiege it. From his bunker under heavy guard, President Volodymyr Zelensky wages a relentless communications campaign, rallying resistance and calling in foreign support.
We have been saying this for a long time, that Ukraine is seeking for protections for our home soil and our own people. But such protections have not in countries assisted us with the waves of migration. However, we should discuss the guarantees that are required to protect our country, our home soil, and our people.
A second round of talks on Thursday between Russia and Ukraine at a location on the border with Belarus came with low expectations of a breakthrough, but the slim glimmer of hope that they're taking place at all. The Ukrainian government, meanwhile, has called for humanitarian corridors to be set up. And here in the western city of Lviv, volunteers are hard at work processing aid donations, medicines, clothes, food and other essentials for distribution across the country. There is a humanitarian crisis erupting on multiple fronts, not just the internally displaced who've left everything behind in a scramble for safety across the country's borders, as more than 1 million have done since the invasion began, but also Haitians in urban centres, trapped, terrified and desperate for help. Civilian morale will vary now in a population increasingly terrorised. There'll be desperation in some places, determination in others. A spontaneous rendition of the national anthem at that aid station in Lviv. It is becoming ever clearer that the struggle is not just for personal survival, but for the survival of the nation as a whole. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera, Lviv.
The city of Kharkiv was one of Russia's first targets. Despite heavy shelling and its proximity to the Russian border, it remains under Ukrainian control. Many of the city's 1.5 million have fled. Those who remain face a life under constant threat. A warning now, Charles Stratford's report from